Hello, I'm Lizzy.
And I'm Izzy, and we need help.
Each week we stumble through a new book, method, or concept that brings us one step closer to being our best self.
Yes, we make fun of ourselves.
And others.
But mostly just ourselves. So here's to not taking self-help quite so seriously.
Welcome to We Need Help. I'm Lizzy.
And I'm Izzy, and today we are tackling a monster topic, family dynamics. Dun, dun, dun. First half, family dynamics, and part two, which is the second half of our show, we're going to talk about Prince Harry's book, Spare. So super exciting, action-packed, emotion-packed show we got for you today.
Yeah, it's going to be a real hoot. Let me just tell you, talking about our families, it's going to be a doozer and a half. But first, I want to tell you about this amazing party I went to for my friend Lena's.
Of course you do.
I know. Let's talk about the real dynamic thing in our life.
Okay, what's the part? I saw
Did
pictures.
you see the pictures? Okay,
yeah, there was first of all, I just have to tell our listening audience, you have to post it on the Instagram or whatever, because your Gatsby dress was probably the best thing I've ever seen this year. So Oscar worthy.
Well, as I want to tell you my algorithm for it, and you maybe this might help people. So one of my dearest friends, Lena, it's her 40th birthday. She proclaims to her closest people that she is going to be putting on a Gatsby party. And so I immediately start searching for the perfect dress. And you have to be careful because everybody's on Google looking for it. So you can't pick the first 18 sites for a Great Gatsby dress. You have to go with the 19th and over. So I went down to the 19th website and then got pretty deep into it.
Yeah.
And then
balls deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got balls deep into this website, and then that's where I ordered my Great Gatsby dress. It was beautiful, wasn't it?
Can you give a shout out to wherever you ordered it from?
I can't remember. It's number 19. Just deal with it. Yeah, it was good. It was all, and what you couldn't see was it was backless, and it had fringe going down the back too.
Yeah.
Which meant I had to get spray tanned, obviously.
Yeah.
Have you ever
it was gorgeous. You had long black gloves. Your shoes also were amazing.
They were 1920s style.
Art Deco with silver, and then the heel was classy. It was not too high. It wasn't a hooker heel. It was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. You couldn't go to church in it, and you couldn't go to a stripper club in it. It was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was, give you a little applause. So
thank you. And you have impeccable taste. So that means a lot to me.
Yeah. So that's cool. But the party was fun. What kind of music was there? Was there
My
1920s music? Did she go all out, or tell me?
She went all out. At first, she had a really great DJ, and he did 1920s for the beginning of the party, and then of course
was he dressed to the part? I love when DJs show up suited and booted.
Why don't I? I don't know. I don't know if he was.
Lizzy's I don't remember the hell.
I know what I was wearing, but. And I know what all my friends were wearing, down to I don't remember, but he was amazing. And then she had an open bar. She had a pizza station. She had all kinds of food.
Station.
Yeah, and then which I appreciate. I think that I want to have that at all my parties now.
Yeah,
and then. The best part about it is it's in her house that it took her 2.5 years to build. Every fucking detail in it is amazing. And I love when somebody does something so wholeheartedly that you can see them in every single choice.
Yeah.
And it's just this beautiful home. And she's everything that she does is incredible because she's so good on the inside. She just, she does it for the right reasons.
If she wasn't like that, you would hate her.
I'd see right through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'd see right through it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be nah. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of people with beautiful homes that they've built that you can tell that they didn't do it because, she is doing it because it is reflecting her.
with heart.
Yeah. It's like,
I love that.
yeah, she's so fucking awesome. Her husband described her as she can save you and kill you at the same time.
That's cool.
And I love, of course, I love leather and lace in all forms.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it was the perfect way to describe her. So
that's cool.
She's fierce as fuck. We were parents together when Scarlett was in traditional school. And the entire school was just terrified of the two of us.
Can we have her on sometime?
I would love to.
Okay, we need to have her on sometime.
I would love to. Yes. Yeah. So,
cool.
All right, Lena, okay. I'd like to invite you on. Pick your favorite self-help book, and she'll be on. She would love to.
Good. Okay.
She's hilarious too. Okay, so we're gonna have Lena Rock on. That's her. That's her last name too, Lena Rock.
What a cool last name.
It fits her perfectly.
Okay, I'm gonna segue. Do you want? Are you ready for the segue?
Oh, hold on. Let me put my seatbelt on.
So, speaking of last names and family dynamics, one of my clients is changing his last name because his family dynamic was so toxic that he wanted to just cleanse everything that was related to his dad's side of the family. So he is actually going through the legal process of changing his surname.
Wow. That's brave.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a fuck you to the fam.
It is, but I mean, I'm not going to share the details, but he was sharing a little bit of what was going on, and it was like, okay, and he wants to reinvent himself. He doesn't want to carry the burden of that toxicity moving forward into his life. So what he did was, and this just like made me like tear up, he looked for the strongest male on his mom's side of the family. He did a lot of research, and he's taking his surname. So the last name will still be in the family, but it'll be from a male that is just loving and just a wonderful example. So he's going to take his.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Everybody should do that. I mean, if you can change your gender, you can change your last name.
Yeah. And he said it's it's like $100. It's just not but here's what's interesting in Poland. You can't just make up a name and say, here, this is what I want. You have to give like a reason behind it, which is actually kind of cool. So you have to give the whole reason behind it. So it's interesting.
I like it. Yeah. I like it a lot. That's very cool.
Yeah. So how'd you like that segue from the last names to the family dynamics?
I loved it. I love your segues. They're beautiful. They're art.
Oh.
So let's talk about our families.
Okay.
First of all, I would like to say, are you scared to offend your family by talking about this?
No, because I'm not going to be talking about who did right or wrong or anything. I'm going to be talking more about the dynamics of the family.
Okay.
So it's not saying somebody did a bad job or good job or everyone, let's just put this out there. Everyone did the best they could with what they got.
Yeah, I love that. But there are healthy dynamics and there are unhealthy dynamics for sure.
Correct.
And I think all families have both, right?
Yeah. There's no perfect family. And I used to think there were perfect families because I had a friend in college who her family just seemed so perfect.
Yeah.
Every sibling married well, everything. And I was like, always like, distrustful,
Yeah. And did they have secrets?
I'm sure they had secrets, but we never found out. But then the youngest of the siblings kind of let it all spill one day. And I was like, oh, there are some secrets there. There are some, because they were so perfect on the outside. So I think every family, even the ones that seemingly are so perfect, have.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never met a family. I've never been included in like anything where a family that is perfect. I've been included and around families that are healthy though, versus ones that are toxic.
Who's the health like that you can recall out of people have like do you think the healthiest or pretty close to being healthy? Can you think of?
can't think of any. I mean,
off the top of my head. Yeah.
I mean,
well, that tells you something. It's almost a relief.
The Rocks are very healthy, and Lena's side of that, like her mom and her sisters are all loving and very honoring of each other. But like, I don't really know their family either. Like, I'm not like into it. Like, I wouldn't know. They seem like that, but like the families that what I'm talking about is like people I really know, like really, really, really know. Like there's always something that, some kind of trauma that has happened. I mean, I used to think my family was very healthy.
I know a healthy family.
Okay.
Very healthy. Yeah, I was just thinking, I was going through my Rolodex of families that I know, and my friend Maya, the lady that I was doing a lot of the coaching with, super, super healthy family. Like, happy kids, happy parents, loving, lots of arguing, messiness, problems, but they enjoy spending time together as a family. Like, they love it. They love going on vacations together. You walk into the home and you feel the joy and the love and the inclusion, and you want to be around it.
That's what I feel like Jason and I have like worked our asses off to create.
Yeah.
You know, it's like by pushing out the toxic behaviors of our families. Not that our families are like awful, because they're not, but like there were a lot of different problems in each of our families that were so different. That was the best part. Is when we got together, my family was very like complete and total chaos, where his family was shoving everything under the rug.
Perfect storm.
Perfect storm, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
You know,
that's interesting. You know, when the two families merge, and Maciek and I were talking about this recently, how interesting it is when two families, you know, merge, and the two dynamics merge, which is a lot about what, you know, Prince Harry was talking about. And this is that. So, and then you are talking about you, Jason, and Scarlett, you know, creating
nuclear
your family structure. Yeah.
And it's weird when you try to make a family and there's like, you know, two people coming together, living together is a family.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like, so whenever you bring two people that are not otherwise like supposed to be together, like you're not brother and sister, into a household, you're not related, then you're a family.
Yeah. And it's what is really interesting is sometimes those dynamics can change, you know, through like you meet and there's one dynamic, and then through the years, a different dynamic sets in because of circumstances. So that's interesting too. So are you nervous to talk about your family dynamic today, or?
I really just, you know, with this podcast and actually with my whole life, I just want to show up, and, you know, if everybody's offended by what I say, then, you know, it's through love. It's not, I don't have any hate or I have nothing but appreciation for the way I was brought up in all ways, you know. And I think it's actually an asset to me. Like everything we're going to talk about is made me a stronger and better person. So I really hope that that's what anybody hears if they listen. I don't think a lot of my family listens to this.
So we can say what we want.
Yeah, I don't think like my dad's like
mom and dad.
I don't think my dad listens. And my mom will listen. She's like, "Oh, I've got to catch up." Your dad
doesn't listen, but he's like our biggest fan because he's constantly liking our stuff.
He is. He's so funny. Like, and I also like his story's not mine to tell, but man, his family dynamics were fucked up growing up.
Yeah. Should we get into it? Can I read the definition of what family dynamics is before we start getting into it?
I would love for you to. Yes.
Okay. So family dynamics refers to the patterns of interactions among relatives, their roles and relationships, and the various factors that shape their interactions. There's a lot going on here. So, yeah, because family members rely on each other for emotional, physical, and economic support, they are one of the primary sources of relationship security or stress. So that's basically it. But it's those interactions, roles, and then factors that influence those. Whew.
Yeah.
Whew.
That gives these people a lot of power. So the power dynamics are really important not to be grabbing for, I think.
Yeah. So should we talk about how we were raised? Like what were the patterns of interactions in your house, for example?
Why don't you start it off? Because my family tree looks like a bush. So you go right ahead.
Like your bush or?
Not like my bush. My bush is clean and like organized. This is a mess.
This is like your family dynamics.
This is like a 1970s gym teacher. But I love them.
Yeah, but you love them.
I love them.
So, family dynamics, like interactions between people, there was a lot of things that were not said in my family. So, those were the dynamics. Like, we did not discuss things. We did not discuss feelings. It was just a lot of secrets, I think, in my family.
Omitting.
Yeah. A lot of omitting. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's carried on like throughout. It's interwoven because I just spoke to my aunt recently who's an elderly person and she needs help. And so I called her and I said, because I'm arranging a carer for her. And she's like, I can't talk now because my son, like, she doesn't want everybody else to know that I'm helping her. And I'm like, why? And that's just an example of how it worked. Like, don't tell.
Secrets and lies are
don't tell mom. Yeah.
Secrets and lies are a big problem in families.
Yeah. So that was a lot of the dynamic where we didn't talk about certain things, you know. I think that was a big thing. And I never really learned to express wants, needs, feelings. It just wasn't part of the everyday conversation.
It wasn't, you weren't shown how to do it. Mm-mm. Like those are things that are shown.
Right. And then when there was feelings, they would come out as actions. So it wasn't like I'm feeling upset. It was like screaming or yelling or crying. And then you knew, you know, so it was all very like, it was almost like bottled up, and boom, you know, that was sort of the dynamic of expressing of feelings or something like that. Yeah.
Is that something that you carried through for yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To the point where when I first moved to Poland, I went to go see an energy therapist, and she said my throat chakra is completely blocked, that I can't express. And I still have a hard time expressing. And I dated this guy, Mihao, who said, you never talk about how you feel, you just tell stories.
Oh.
You know, so he noticed it. Because I couldn't say how I feel because I lost the ability to identify that. I didn't even know how you
didn't have it. You didn't have it to begin, like you weren't given it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. How about you? What was it like for you?
I mean,
in your core household, so your mom, your dad.
So my mother was 19 when she had me, and my dad was 28. They got together when my mom was 17. And then they had me and my sister, and then they broke up. So I didn't have my dad in my core home from the get-go, since I was 2 years old. And so, as you can imagine, a 19-year-old is very raw. So
she's a kid herself.
A complete child. Also, her family dynamic, like my grandfather left my grandmother for another woman, and my grandmother worked as a nurse. Like, she slept during the day and worked at night. So, like, not only was my mom only 19, she was raised by her four other, by herself and her four other siblings. So, I mean, there was not ever an emotion that wasn't fucking spoken. Like, there was never a feeling that wasn't, like,
expressed.
It was so raw and so volatile, and it was very loving, and everybody fought, and everybody, like, she was, she had boyfriends that were tumultuous, and, like, I got to witness, like, these, like, scary fucking relationships. Like, I don't know about you, but, like,
it was all out there, though.
It was
everything
all out was there. So out there and intense all the time. And it was like riding a bull sometimes. I remember, and I was a very quiet, scared child. So, like, I remember being very scared of what was happening a lot, and, like, trying to figure out how to fix and save, like, especially my little sister and my mom, because she was very, very vulnerable, I guess I should say.
Great word. Brene Brown.
I love you, Brene.
What's interesting is you had this out there, explosive, everything out there. We had this behind closed doors, but both of us still had this feeling that we have to take care of.
Yes.
Did you have this? And did you feel responsible for the happiness of your family? It's from my childhood?
It's been a very big cross for me to bear. Too big. Yeah. Too big for me to bear.
So that's interesting. Family dynamics, different, but still maybe a little unhealthy. And then the effect it has on the child is that the child feels that the child has to fix it.
Yeah, and that's because whenever there's a tumultuous or unsure, like you didn't know if your mom was going to blow up and start crying, and like, if it was going to come out. And I didn't know what to expect. Like, like, when you don't know what to expect when you come into your safe zone, that's scary, I think, as a child.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but were you ever told it's not your fault and it's not your responsibility? Were you ever, like, communicated that as a child? Like, did you feel taken care of emotionally as a child?
My mom was extremely loving, but I don't think, looking back, I felt safe.
Okay.
Like, I just went through this amazing, that energy worker, Candace Tranter. And she, like, took me back to a day that I, like, had to stick up for my mom. I was 2 years old. And my dad and she were in physical altercation. And I had to stand in front of my mom and, like, say, please don't hit my mommy. And I, like, remember that day. I don't know if it's because my mom's told me the story or if I actually remember it, because I can feel the emotion inside of me, worried about my sister. And she was just 18 months younger than me. And I just, like, I don't know if that's, like, but I just don't, I guess I never knew what to expect.
Yeah.
And then, like, my mom, like, my mom was very, extremely loving.
Yeah. Still is, by the way.
Still is.
Your mom has the biggest heart on the planet.
On earth. I'm so lucky that I chose her to be my mom. But, like, I remember just, like, and my mom said once that, she recognized in me that I was very sensitive. And so she needed to make me stronger from the get-go.
Interesting.
Well, unfortunately, I never felt, if you're being told you're strong all the time, that means you can't be weak. Like, if she built me up to be strong, but I literally was only a child. You know? So Candace Tranter like took me back to that time, and she like removed the energy out of me, because your cells actually hold energy like that. And like they have memory. So she took that out of me, and it was
Keeps the score.
Yeah. So it just like I started to cry and weep, and like she made me go back and kind of like mentally hold that child, and you know, and stuff like that. So that was really, you know, when you grow up, and I think we all grow up, like my husband grew up, and he like they didn't want to make meatballs over anything in their house. So he felt like he had to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, like I never felt like I had to be perfect.
But you felt like you had to be strong.
I had to be strong.
Yeah.
You know, I had to take care of my sister. That was my job, to take care of my sister. My mom said it's your job to take care of each other.
Yeah.
So fast forward 100 years in this family, and I've got 5 younger sisters. From my mom only had Katie and I, and then she partially raised Eric. And then my dad remarried and had 2 other girls, and then my mom remarried and had 2 step girls. Now we had step sister and brother like in the middle there. So like when I say that my family looked like a bush, it's like I don't really know who belongs to me and who doesn't. I know who comes around now.
Yeah. I actually love that. I was thinking about it, and we'll talk about this in part 2, but I think sometimes we tend to hold on to these narratives we tell ourselves about our family dynamics. And your narrative is really complicated, so it almost enables you to be able to release that a little bit, because I think it's dangerous sometimes to hold on to certain narratives. That it was this way, and this is why I'm this way, and that is the narrative. And I was thinking about narratives when I was reading this book, Spare, and my own self. Like, I got to stop telling myself these stories of how it was, and this is why I am the way I am. And I think having a 70s Bush family allows you to just release that, because it's too complicated to even have a narrative, because the narrative's all like, you know?
Well, you
so
know,
I
like,
just love that.
The dynamics of, you know, where you land in the family is supposedly supposed to be very important. Well,
yeah, and where do you land? Like,
yeah, well, my brother is dead. He was 6 years older than me. Then there's me and Katie. We were raised together. But then there's Jeannie and Becky. She's actually Jeannie's the oldest there, but then she's my 3rd youngest sister. And then there's Janice and Jessica. Janice is the oldest there, but she's older than Jeannie. You know what I mean? So it's like there's so many older kids. I mean, the problem is with it, and we all came together. We were all together very much. We just all came together. We were like, fuck it. We're all sister and brothers. We're this, that, and the other. And then my brother killed himself, and we all just kind of scattered. I tried to hold everybody together. I like
a pube in the wind.
Like a pube in the wind. Like they just I don't know what happened. I think maybe my mom just kind of, you know, she was so depressed she couldn't hold anybody together, and I wasn't able to do it at, you know, 20 whatever.
Well, you know, there is, and you're right. Like, there's usually the matriarch who kind of organizes, and, you know, there's that nucleus.
Yeah.
And if the nucleus just doesn't have the energy, then it doesn't.
Yeah. And I just like recognized, I guess, you know, in our family, I've always said I have a close family, and I did have a close family up until that point. Like, we were extremely, probably too boundaryless. But like our family is not close now.
Yeah.
It's just not. Like, I haven't seen some of my sisters in years.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense what you said, because, like, again, going back to that definition of family dynamics, the various factors that shape the interactions, your brother's death, factor that shaped the interaction. It was a certain way before he died, and then it was a certain way after he died.
Yep.
And then, with my family, it was, it seems kind of obvious, but it was just the divorce. Like, we were, despite how our interactions were, it was mom, dad, kids, grandma, and uncles and aunts, and we all spent time together, holidays, Thanksgivings, birthdays. Then came the divorce, and it was like, it also scattered, my brother and mine's addiction. We moved to Poland. It changes, and then you just form new dynamics. So it's all interesting. It's all very complicated and,
Yeah. Is there a family member that you're closest to?
It's interesting because if you would have asked me this a few years ago, I would have said, I think my dad, but my mom and I have gotten really close because I've started understanding her more. But I think my dad and I are more similar in terms of personality. So I think we understand each other better, but I've started seeing parts of myself from my mom. So I think now it's
to all of us.
Yeah. So I think now I'm pretty close to both of them. Okay. I talk to both of them on a daily basis. And I think what's interesting I wanted to mention about family dynamics is you get to a certain age and your parents almost stop being your parents and they start being your, I don't want to say children, but you start taking care of your parents more than they take care of you. And I think my dad is very independent, so I don't think he needs that, but I think my mom needs a little more tender, loving care. So that's really interesting, that dynamic. Have you noticed that? Weird. As you get older, you start taking care of your parents?
Yeah, well, my dad is in Illinois still.
Yeah.
But yes, a definite change has occurred with my mom. I mean, my mom has undergone so many changes. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. Since my brother passed, like, she dove deep into depression, deep into addiction. So that was a natural, I had to the roles had to be changed because I had to protect her and myself from her and my family. Like, that really got weird. The dynamic really got weird there for a while. I think addiction is one of the worst things as far as like trying to keep a healthy dynamic together. So, I did my dad, like my stepdad, and when my mom was in the height of her, like it was coming to a head, like where she was like seriously losing the battle to addiction. And I was like, you have to do something, this, that, and the other thing. I'm telling him what to do, line by line, what exactly to do. And he said, "You're not my mother." And I said, "Oh my God, I'm not. And I don't have to take care of you." And it was like, I was so grateful that he said that because I had felt so much responsibility for this whole family and taking care of them. And this was like after days of spending, at Christmas, like the week of Christmas in the hospital with my mom and everything. And I just was like, wait, I am not their parent.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I think that we're not like, and I see some of our family members doing it to their parents. I think it's really nasty when kids treat their parents like children. I think it's like, don't you want to leave them with some dignity? Talk to them like normal people.
But sometimes they want to be in that role.
I've never met an old person that wants to be treated like...
They do and they don't. You know what I'm saying? It's like a fine line. They want tender, loving care, but then but it has to be done in a certain way.
You can't so talk it's really down to them.
Right. No. Yeah.
I see it a lot. And like, I don't know. It just can't be healthy. It just can't be. Like,
yeah.
But elder care is like, that's a really bad dynamic.
Yeah.
I plan on putting my mom in a home.
I talked to my mom and she's like, yeah, she wouldn't even want to burden us with that. Here's the interesting thing in Poland. Polish parents don't give a shit if they burden their children or not. They're like, yep, I'm burdening you, bitch. Like, but
That's
my
how
mom,
all
thankfully,
cultures used to be.
yeah,
You
and
just took care of your family.
because you'd lived in different ways. Like, I still have family that lives in the south of Poland. They all have farms next to each other, farmland, and they all have houses next to each other. So it's a village.
Yeah.
They all go to each other's houses and take care of each other, and all the kids live there, you know. But now it's different. Like, I got a parent in the US, I got a parent in Poland. You know, it's cousins all over the US. Like, we don't have, we used to have. We all lived in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. That was our little village. We were all close to each other, but now it's totally scattered.
Yeah. Like, I remember every weekend we got together with my cousins.
Yeah.
My cousins were my best friends. I was never going to not have them in my life.
Yeah.
I talk to my cousins about once every 6 months at, like, if my mom's there and she happens to hand me the phone, like, we never ever talk. We never talk.
Yeah, we don't talk. I don't talk to I talked to my one cousin. She just adopted a beautiful baby boy, and we were talking about that. So we record each other messages sometimes. And you know what? If anything comes out of this episode, it's going to make me reach out to my cousins more. I think that's important. But now the elder care, what we were talking about, it's easier if grandma lives next door and everyone takes turns running over to grandma's house to help.
Right.
But now it's a totally different world. So, you know, I was speaking to my mom about it. She's like, yeah, put me in a home. But my chick's dad, for example, absolutely, he was in a home, and he's like, absolutely not. And he even refuses. We have an apartment next to ours that's empty. And we're like, why don't you just move in there? He's like, nope, I want to stay where I am. So we're having to drive over, and it's exhausting. Yeah. But we do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I often tease my mom that I'm just going to build her a cabin on our land because you know, in all of this, I want to say, like, my mom is one of my favorite people. Like, she is genuinely the kindest hearted person, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but like, I love to be around her, you know. Now my dad, he brings out the worst in me. I love him so much, but he can say, you know, we talk about these love languages and stuff. He doesn't speak my love language. He doesn't know how to love me.
Oh,
I know.
But he does, though. Like, he is our biggest fan, and I think that's the way he shows love. I think he likes all of our posts. I mean, I know that you only mentioned that he only has 3 friends on Facebook, so like, he just
but I mean, it is. I love that. Yes,
yeah,
and he's so proud of me. He talks about me to everybody.
Yeah,
and like he just. But I've told Jeannie and Becky and Katie that, like, I'll take mom, no problem.
Yeah.
But dad, like, I mean, he came over for the week, and like, I built this beautiful new space, and it's a guest studio. And my sister walks in, and he's like in his skivvies, like, smoking a cigarette on inside the guest studio. Like, I just had
old guys in skivvies. Like,
I don't know.
My chick's dad walks around in his skivvies too, and I'm like, put some clothes on.
My dad always has just slept in his underwear. I don't like.
It's so funny. It's like they're you know, they're animals with like latent human tendencies. You know?
I know, but I mean, who goes over to somebody's house and just lights up a cigarette in their guest suite?
Your dad.
My dad. And he's like, my sister ripped him a new a-hole, and she's like, you know, Chuck Norris. And that's what we call my sister Katie. And like, she was freaking out. Like, but that's another thing. Like, I'm like, it's my house. Like, why were you freaking out? Because she's so codependent with me. She knew I was going to be upset. So she got upset enough for the both of us.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of appreciate it in a way. Like, fuck you. I gave you life. I'm going to smoke a cigarette in here.
In my skivvies.
In my panties.
Oh God, there's so much to be said, man. But is there anything else you want to say about family dynamics?
I mean, I could go on and on about this.
We could go on, I think.
This thing is it's such a big subject that, you know, and it's a scary subject, and everybody, like, I think if we could get to a healthy place of finding your family absolutely hilarious and loving them anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I love like we call him Billy T, my father, so much. And one of the things I love about him the most is I could rip on him right to his face and he'll laugh.
Yeah.
Like, I learned that from him.
I think you hit the nail on the head with what you said. Like, you know, just loving them anyway. And having everything come from this place of love, which is really hard to do when there's all those emotions and family dynamics and all that stuff.
And what you didn't get. I'm done with
Yeah.
this. I'm so sick and tired of people being a victim. I know 50-year-old people that are like mad at their mom still. Like, I'm sorry. Why don't you?
It's you know, you gotta, I think the happiest people in life are people who switch, you know, from being a taker to a giver. And as long as you're a taker and you have that taker mentality, what I didn't get from, you're going to be miserable.
All about what you got.
What about what you got from your family, right? And Tony Robbins talks about this, and I Am Not a Guru. And I love
my sister and I talk about it constantly, because my sister still has some, not so much anymore, but she did for a very long time, some animosity about how our childhood went, because it was harder on her. Yeah. She was extremely intelligent. She wouldn't ever stop. Like, she had more energy than anybody. She wasn't afraid to rub a motherfucker the wrong way. So she got lots of spankings and lots of abuse, and like, not abuse, but like, it was harder on her. Yeah. But like, I talk about it all the time. There is not one, I don't know anybody like she and I. We can put together a wedding in 4 hours if we had to. We can do the most that, like, we're creative. We can like make it work. We can just do so much, you know, and I think that's because we chose the parents that we chose. I think it's because we didn't have as much as everybody else. You know, I think that, like, if you could somehow turn, you know, if you want to think about it, like, the fact that your family, like, didn't say everything probably made you a really good liar.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Which is something that I had to work through. But, you know, there's definitely positive things that I took. I would like to focus on everything that I've gotten rather than what I didn't get.
Yeah, because I think that it really, you're annoying if you're still upset, if you haven't worked through it by the time you're like mid-adult.
Yeah, grow up.
Grow up.
And stop telling yourself these sad, sad stories. Because I got girls that I work with that cannot get out of the loop of their narrative. My daddy this, my mommy this, and this.
One fucking step and do some research of what your parents had to deal with. Or even worse, you want to get even more fucked up, their parents.
Yeah, or their parents before that. Yeah, go ahead.
If you want to, like, if you really want to, like, stop feeling sorry for yourself, like, even if you have to imagine it, like, what they had to go through. I mean, even if you don't know, pretend they got raped by, like, you know, an uncle.
Yeah.
That'll, like I used to teach when I was training and developing sales people and customer service reps. I would say, if somebody's being an asshole to you, just in your mind, give them cancer. It helps, like, you feel so much better if you pretend they have cancer.
I love Lizzie's sales techniques.
They work.
Yeah, they do.
You know, they
Anything,
work.
yeah, yeah.
But just do some research, because if they caused you pain, they must have been really fucked up.
Yeah.
By their
family dynamics. Yeah. And this is the guy that is changing his surname. He did loads of research. He went back and back and back, and he said, I understand why my father's family is the way it is, but I just want to release that. And that's cool. That's adult. And he's not doing it with anger.
No, I love that.
He's focusing on
he's wanting a new
reinventing
start, and you're allowed to do
Exactly.
that too.
Yeah. So, amen.
Okay.
Anything else you want to say about family dynamics before we go to break and start talking about spare?
I didn't want to talk about it to begin with, to be honest. But we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome back. So part 1, we tackled family dynamics, and that could have been like a 4-hour episode. So I think we did pretty good for 45 minutes. And now we're going to get into...
If you have any questions about that, feel free not to ask them.
Feel free not to ask them.
I don't fucking know the answer.
Yeah. Now we're going to
talk about a family that's more fucked up than both of ours put together.
Let's do it.
Shall we?
To make ourselves feel better. So we read Prince Harry's book Spare, which is all about, I think, family dynamics, which I thought was...
It's all about family dynamics.
And that was like a 15-hour listen. So there's a lot in there.
Did you get through it all?
No, I got about halfway. So
yeah, me
how about
too.
you? Yeah.
Me too. And I'm going to listen to the rest of it on the way. Like, I leave from here to go up to Ocala today.
Okay.
And it's a very interesting book.
I liked it. I mean, I thought it was well written. So it was written by a ghostwriter, J.R. Moringer, who wrote the book The Tender Bar. That was based on his story.
Such a good movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
With Ben Affleck. It's unbelievable. And the soundtrack is fantastic.
Okay, so that's
totally different
based
subject,
on his story. Yeah, so he wrote the book, and I thought it was really well written.
Yeah,
and
if you look at the Tinder bar,
that is Tinder or tender, the Tinder bars,
the Tender bar. Sorry,
bar. Yeah.
It is. That's how I grew up.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's
I'm
exact. Like my sister and I are like, this is totally our childhood.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, so I'm totally gonna watch that. Okay. So yeah, what did you think about Spare? Like, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, I love Prince Harry. Like, I'm not one of the. I'm so tired of hearing. I don't give a fuck about the royals. Yes, you do. Knock it off. Why are you like? If you don't give a fuck, then why are you so upset?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, you are not in a position of neutrality. Okay?
No.
You are.
When you're like losing it because they're like, I mean, it's an interesting subject, but I'm so glad that this boy and his wife and his 2 children have gotten out of the toxicity called the royal family.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not out of it. But they're as out of it as they possibly could be.
Yeah. I have mixed feelings about the whole sitch. Like, very mixed feelings, which is good because I'm a human. I'm allowed to have mixed feelings. Mixed drinks, I was going to say.
You're not allowed to have mixed drinks.
I like having mixed drinks about feelings.
And then having some feelings.
So, yeah, I watched the Harry and Meghan show. I really enjoyed it. It really made me completely disgusted with the media, like to a point where, like, physically ill.
Yeah. They're gross.
Yeah. I did have some mixed feelings though, because everyone's family's messed up. I'm glad I'm glad Harry and Meghan told their story. As I mentioned in the first part of our episode, I tend to fear narratives because you have to tell a narrative if you're telling a story, because you're telling a story. But I'm always afraid of telling a narrative because then you kind of have to stick to that narrative. And it's really hard to say, oh, I was wrong, or it's different, you know? It's like,
Shouldn't
here's our
be.
narrative.
Shouldn't
This
be.
is how we're pronouncing it. So
I think that it's really important to understand when you're, as the listener, this is the listener's responsibility, is their perspective at that time.
yes. Well said.
You know,
well said.
so I think that is our responsibility more than it is his responsibility. Like, if you listen to my sister tell a story about how it was to grow up with me, I'm basically like Hannibal Lecter and somebody from the Mean Girls, like, merged together, you know. Well, nobody wants to talk about the fact that she was a real big pain in the ass. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, everyone, like, you have to understand that was the way she saw things. So I love the way he describes his experience at his mother's funeral.
Yeah.
Did you like that?
Yeah, it was very moving. And I loved how he kept thinking that it wasn't real. And I could totally, it was a really beautiful way of, I thought that whole chapter was fantastically written. And I did too. His experience, written by a very good writer, that I just thought it was brilliantly presented. How he kept thinking this wasn't real and his mom was just going to show up a few years later. Like, she didn't really die, you know?
He calls it her disappearance.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, is that fucking code for something? Like, you know how there's like conspiracy theory?
Yeah.
But I remember at Jacob's funeral and at my brother's funeral, like, they're just gone one day, and it's just weird.
Yeah.
Someone who you don't think you can live without is, like, especially your mom. Like, I dread the day my mom passes. But, like, a little boy, his mother is just gone.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah, the whole book I thought was interesting. And just the way he presented
How did you feel about the way his older brother treated him?
I thought it was fine. I think this is where I'm like, okay, there's another side of the story. Because I know if my brother, just like your sister, tells the story of how she was treated, people would think you were an awful human being.
Well, I didn't think, as he calls him, Willie, was a awful human being. I was just like, I felt kind of bad for Katie because I know I treated her like she was, I wouldn't let her talk to me, I'm sure, at several points in our life. You know, like, I mean, you're the oldest, right?
I think speaking of family dynamics, the sibling is always going to feel worse than the older child. That is just the dynamic. There's never a scenario where the younger sibling feels better than the older child. It's just, there's no scenario like that. They're always going to feel
what if
slightly
there's a girl? What if it's a little girl and they've been trying for a little girl or a little boy? I've seen the boy, Jason and his sister, the mom, Jason's the golden child, and the mom, and the sister is the black sheep.
Okay. How did Jason feel about his sister? What was their dynamic?
Well,
because Harry's
they were
dynamic,
slightly pitted against each other. I think he thought she was a real big pain in the ass.
Okay. So
he's never said that, but
you know, Harry and William, Harry always kind of felt, I think I got the feeling that he always felt slightly like the spare. His whole book says it, spare.
Yeah, he always felt the spare.
Not good enough. And my brother, I know, felt that way. And I don't know if your sister always felt the not good enough, comparing, you know. But did Jason feel that way? Or did he feel better than his sister as the younger kid?
Better.
I'm just curious. Better. Okay.
Yeah,
every family.
I don't think he was conscious to that.
Okay. But going back to brothers.
Yeah. Brothers.
And my ex had an older brother, and he always felt like not as good as his older brother. And I think that happens with brothers and maybe sisters, you know, where there is the younger child never feels as good as the older child. And I think that was just simple there. And they were different. And I would have loved to heard William's take on that. Like
Yeah.
he describes the whole scene where he shaved his head as a joke.
Yeah.
And he ran up to his brother and was like, ah, and his brother just laughed, where you shaved your head as a joke. So
You look like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, like
That's
I would
what
laugh
I
too.
would have said.
And yeah, and it's like that was like a traumatic thing. And it's different how people experience traumas in different ways. Were you the one who was telling me about when your mom, oh no, Maria talked about this. Same situation, two different perspectives. So Maria was telling me a story of how her mom took her and her sister to a lake. And she said, girls, let's go swimming. And she ran and jumped into the lake right off the pier.
Okay.
And Maria's like, yeah! And she went in and jumped and her sister jumped in too. And Maria tells the story of how it was fun. It was spontaneous. Her mother was so much fun. Like, great. Her sister, same situation, tells the story. It was completely traumatic. I thought my mom had gone insane.
Okay.
I didn't know what was going on.
I want to stop you.
Yeah.
That's how I described my childhood. It was fun. It was crazy. It was wild. I loved it. And my sister's like, I think mom had gone insane.
So you see, it's that all these stories, I always, and I think you're absolutely right. The reader or the listener or whoever it is, the responsibility is that is one perspective.
Yes.
And don't make it the narrative and don't make it the truth, because it is one perspective. And as we know, the family dynamics is a collection of pubic hair.
It's a big bush, 70s bush of pubic hair.
It's all tangled and crazy. So,
Yeah, I would recommend this book, and I would recommend listening to it because it's in his voice.
Yeah, he speaks really nicely, and yeah.
Yeah, and I don't, normally like English accents like annoy me.
Yeah.
His doesn't.
It's because it's a little gravelly, slightly.
Yeah, I like that. It's got a little.
Yeah.
It's got a little grit.
Yeah, a little grit.
But like, why did it have to be so long?
Lizzy, we just talked about we barely scratched the surface of any family dynamic. I think
guess.
It's a deep.
I guess
it's a long. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
It's a lot there. If you picked out every pube and put them all together and stretched them out, they'd probably wrap around the world a couple times.
Oh my God. Yeah, it would. Oh my God. Every pube would really just, yeah.
So it's, there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. And there's funny stories. When you went to Africa, did you get that far?
Yes. With his dad or, yeah.
No, the second time.
Oh, the second time. No, I haven't gotten there yet. What was the funny story there?
It's good. Well, he thought I was smoking a joint, and he was just smoking dried basil.
I've done that.
Like,
who hasn't?
Yeah. I bought
oregano.
$7 joint one time, and it was oregano.
Oregano, yeah. I was in New Orleans.
It was like a pizza.
This guy came up real quick, and he's like, I got some weed. And then I bought it, and it ended up being oregano. Yeah.
Yeah.
So funny. So let's talk a little bit about, just touch on this, because their family dynamic drastically changed when Meghan came into the picture. And I almost saw it as the family, the royals, they have their recipe. They have their recipe. Everything's measured out then. And then here comes the chili pepper, which they're not expecting and they don't know what to do with. And they don't know
they didn't
spice.
have a lot of space for a
Spice.
Black American actress.
Yeah. And it really threw a wrench in the dynamic.
Are you allowed to say actress anymore?
Is it all actor or
it's
something?
actor. Yeah. It's all actor. God, the world is pussies.
The world is, it's just a bunch of pussies. Hairless.
So hairless pussies. No bush.
Anyway.
So she comes into the mix and all hell breaks loose, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But all hell was always breaking loose with these people.
I know. There's always somebody who,
like Camilla, the That was weird.
Camilla was the brunt of a lot of bad press, I remember, and she probably was followed as well. And then she kind of got in line somehow, or maybe somebody new arrived, or some other news. So
Well,
I really
will
think
say everyone they like to follow is attractive, and I don't think Camilla is as beautiful on the outside. I'm not saying on the inside.
Yeah.
But like, I think that like they focused so much on Megan because she was gorgeous.
Yeah. Really, really gorgeous and different.
And Diana. And
Yeah. So,
has anything come into your family like that? I was the Meghan Markle of Jason's family, for sure.
I'm trying to think. You know what? It's funny because my aunt, who God rest her soul, and my mom both talked about how they were that for the family, but then after years, the family grew to love them. And I'm just wondering, with Megan, if the tides will not turn in a few years and she'll be just completely embraced into the fold or not. I'm curious about that.
I think she's a game changer. I think she's changing the royal family.
Yeah.
For the better.
Yeah.
I really do. Like, I think that she is, and I'm just saying this because of my experience with Jason's family. Like, at first they were really pushing back on me because I am such a force.
Yeah.
Like, I just love so ungodly, ridiculously strong.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it any other way. And, like, I wish they would have said, okay, like, obviously she wasn't given the tools to, like, tighten her asshole that tight.
Yeah.
But like, so like it took them a little while, but I did actually, like Jason said, I saved his family.
Yeah.
Because I forced them to love each other.
Yeah.
Like in the best way. Like I just made everything okay and made like, it's weird because like with my sister-in-law, Jen, like, I don't think she's ever understood that like family is supposed to love you no matter what. Like they don't have to like what you're doing. They don't have to accept, behaviors, but they're supposed to be there and love you no matter what.
But I think it does have to go somehow both ways.
Yeah. I mean, she was willing and wanting to be that way too.
Yeah.
That's what she was longing for in a family.
Yeah. But I know. I have mixed feelings about it because she was a victim of certain things, but she was almost expecting the whole royal family to change, and maybe they needed to change, but they weren't ready for that change.
Well, when you see toxic behavior, you should require that to change in your life.
You should. For yourself, which they did. They moved out. They said, we're going to take care of us. We're moving out of the toxic. They removed themselves from the toxic.
They didn't say you have to change the whole royal family.
Right. They didn't say you have to change. And I think they did a really great thing. Right.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's interesting. And it's so much more complex because you have the media as this, again, what we talked about, the definition, the forces outside that affect the family dynamics. The media is an outside force that I think severely affected the family dynamics, right?
I'm going to talk to Canada right now, and I'm going to talk to all the other, there's a strong issue with the paparazzi in the United States.
Yeah.
Why are we not holding these people accountable as stalking?
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, it was insane when, and this is in the book and in the series, in the documentary, where she was like, she called the police and she's like, there's 5 guys just sitting outside my house. And if it was not the media, they would have sent cop cars over. But since it was the media, they didn't. So how is that, it's just, anyway, that's a whole different ballgame. But in terms of family dynamics, there's this force that affects, because normally if there's a toxic person in the family, and I've had this situation where you detach with love, right? But you don't cut off and, it's just like kind of distance yourself sometimes, but you still can communicate with love. But here it was almost like there was no way to do that because of this force of the media. So it's really interesting to read this book and see how an outside force could really affect family dynamics. Fame,
but the
media.
problem is the family like as a family, like if we're looking at them only as a family, they actually have the media in their home with them. They actually feed it and give it. So it is a toxic part of their family that they're inviting into their life.
Yeah.
They could all say, I mean, I'm dedicated to my work and all, but you could just say, fuck you.
It's,
you don't own.
Yeah, it is. I know it, but it is complex. It is complex.
But it's like feeding a beast and feeding a beast and then wondering why it's getting too big.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And there are things like that in every family. For ours, it was addiction.
Yes.
Like I was covering for my mom all the time. I was, like making excuses. I was, just let's get through this. That was our media. That was our paparazzi in our family.
Yeah.
Or, like I shouldn't even just like my own problems. Like when I was in my worst times, like my family, like they could have, like, they were covering for me and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, at some point you have to put up a boundary and be like, okay, this isn't good for our family.
Yeah.
When they're crashing people into like freaking bridges.
Yeah.
It no longer becomes an obligation of your job. It becomes like, we need to hold these people accountable and call for that. And like in your own family, you have to put up boundaries when it starts to hurt everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you said, loving boundaries, but
yeah.
I don't even know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, but well, it's complex. It's all complex, but I'm glad, you know what? Okay. I'm glad this book was written. It was super interesting. It brings up these types of conversations, which is amazing. Like, what does it mean to be family? Different family dynamics, personal accountability. It's all in there, and I think it's brilliant. And I would recommend anybody, to read it. And did you get anything out of it as you were listening to it, reading it? Like, what did you take from it for yourself?
I mean, just thinking about family dynamics in and of itself. Like, one of my 2023 goals is going to be to get to a place, hopefully, of healing after my brother's been dead for a very long time, since 2006. And like, just getting closer to my family. I think so many people in our family felt, I don't know, just it was like a lack of acceptance of our family, and just getting to a point of maybe like getting closer if we possibly can. I don't know. I mean, I've always, like, Jason and I have created a family, and then my mom and sister and his parents and his sister are down here. So that's our extended family and our nieces and nephews. So we have a beautiful family, but there's all these satellites out there that they have their own beautiful little hubs. So I don't know if they even want to come back into our hub. You know what I mean? So I would like to be closer to my sisters because of it.
Okay.
What about you?
Again, the thing that came up for me when I was reading this is just to be aware of the narrative that I spew about my own family, and always try to take the responsibility of, as a teller of my own family story, to remember that it's just my perspective and there's always another side. And also, this book made me want to get in touch with my cousins more. So I'm going to make a conscious effort to reach out to my extended family. So those are kind of the two things: being aware of narratives and that there is narratives, and just being a little, not sticking to one and holding on to it very tightly. Right. And then being in touch with those little orbits, because now my cousin adopted a child. So she got remarried. So she's got this narrative, and it's all, this little hub, like you said, the satellites. So I want to connect the satellites and just see if we can communicate a little better. Yeah. I love that. Oh, I love you. Well, what a great episode. I love you.
And for all of our listeners, like, I know this is a tough subject, and everyone's family, if you're feeling like your family is exhausting, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Everybody's is.
Yeah.
I mean, the Prince of freaking Wales, his family is
Sitting in his
tiring.
castle, pissed off.
Like, just not feeling like, it's just, I think that family, I do believe that we choose our family. I believe we choose our parents. I believe we choose our siblings to teach us or to guide us. And I think that that's really important. I believe all the people in our life are for a reason, but I really believe that our family is to teach us.
Yeah. Or us to teach them. So, yeah.
Well, that goes without saying. Here we are. Listen to the podcast.
Duh. And also, if because I know a lot of people don't have relations with any of their family members, friends can be your chosen family.
Oh, chosen family is like that's a life hack.
Yeah, life hack for sure. So
that's a life hack. They're called friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I truly believe that is like one of the things that make us, that separate us from the animals.
Yeah. It's funny. I always refer to you as my sister. When I'm, yeah, I do. When I was like because I don't have, I have half sisters, but they're
that.
But I was, with a client today, and I said, yeah, my sister lives in Naples. I'm like, what? It's just so funny.
I love that.
So yeah, so you're my sister.
I wouldn't doubt it. Like, my dad was like all over the place.
What a plot twist that would be.
I would love that. Like, you knock on my door with your suitcase.
Can I come join your
I'd
satellite?
be like, hi, Izzy. You'd be like, no, I'm your sister.
Turnip seeds.
That would
the
be
name.
awesome. Yeah.
All right. I love you.
Oh, that would be awesome. All right. Well, I love you, sister.
I love you, sis.
I'll see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.
Bye. Thanks for joining us this week on We Need Help, the podcast, the duct tape of self-help.
Please visit our website, weneedhelpthepodcast.com, where you can find links to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and all the others, so you'll never miss a show.
You'll also find links to the books we've reviewed and our amazing store.
If you enjoy this podcast, go right now, because if you're anything like us, you'll never do it later. Like and share our page and episodes on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or just tell a friend about the show. That would help us out too.
Also, feel free to let us know what you need help with, and we'll try to cover it in a future episode. You can also find us on Instagram at weneedhelp_the podcast.
Thank you for listening.